Welcome to RaiNews in English. On the opening day of the World Economic Forum in Davos in Switzerland, a new report by Oxfam lays bare the dramatic global income gap. Just 12 multi-billionaires now own the same amount of wealth as the poorest half of the world's population, an inequality never before recorded in history. Disparities are also worsening in Italy. In just 1 year, the wealth of Italy's super rich has grown by 55 billion euros, around 150 million euros a day. The richest 10% now hold 8 times as much wealth as the poorest half of the population. The report describes Italy as a case of inheritocracy, where the family fortunes are passed down across generations under relatively low inheritance taxes. And the European Union has reacted to the U.S. threat of new 10% tariffs against 8 countries, including Norway and the United Kingdom, both outside the EU. Those countries have sent small troop contingents to Greenland, a territory that legally belongs to Denmark, but whose ownership has been openly claimed by Donald Trump. The president of the European Council, Antonio Costa, has called an extraordinary meeting for January 22nd. The EU has said it is ready to respond to coercion. Possible counter-tariffs worth 93 billion euros are on the table, and this would mark Brussels' first hostile move after months of attempting diplomatic dialogue. Before leaving South Korea, the final stop of her tour across the Middle East and the Far East, Italian Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni clarified her position on the issue. She said that she has spoken both with Donald Trump and with NATO Secretary General Mark Rutte, stressing that coordination and dialogue with allies remain essential. These were her words.
La previsione di un aumento dei dazi.
Foreseeing tariff increases against countries that have chosen to contribute to the security of Greenland is, in my view, a mistake, and one I clearly do not agree with. That said, I do support the level of attention the U.S. presidency is paying to Greenland and, more broadly, to the Arctic region. As I have said before, I strongly emphasize the role of NATO. It is within NATO that we must collectively organize credible deterrence tools against potentially hostile interferences in a territory that is undeniably of strategic importance. From the opposition benches, Italy's Prime Minister Giorgia Meloni is being accused of showing subservience to Donald Trump. The leader of the Democratic Party, Eli Schlein, said a clear stance was needed, calling on the Prime Minister to say plainly, Greenland is not to be touched, it is not for sale, it is not to be bought. We must defend the territorial integrity of a member state of the European Union. The leader of the Five-Star Movement, Giuseppe Conte, accused Meloni of fence-sitting and of clutching at straws, and the leader of the centrist party, Azione, Carlo Calenda, pressed to her to do something truly right-wing. Respond to Trump, he said, the way you should. Where did the sovereignty and national pride from the election campaign go, Mrs. Meloni? The body of Federica Torzullo, a 41-year-old engineer from Anguillara Sabazia near Rome who had been missing since January 8th, was found yesterday buried at her husband's earth-moving business. The husband, Claudio Carlo Magno, was arrested. He had already been under investigation for murder after multiple traces of blood were found on his clothes, his car, and inside the house where the woman is believed to have been killed. During questioning, the man gave contradictory accounts and failed to mention that the couple were in the process of separating. They have a 10-year-old child. The body has been identified by family members and will not undergo an autopsy. The murder weapon has not been found yet. A candlelight vigil will be held this evening in Anguillara in her memory. Anger and tension ran high this morning in La Spezia following Saturday's tragedy in which a 19-year-old student, Zohair Atif, stabbed and killed a classmate, Yusuf Abanoub, who was 18. Both were children of immigrant families fully integrated into Italian society. Students in the city accused school authorities of knowing how dangerous the attacker was and of failing to stop him. According to what has emerged so far, the aggressor has already been reported for bringing a knife to school and had allegedly told a teacher that he wanted to understand what it felt like to kill. The motive may be linked to a photo Abanubi posted on social media with the attacker's girlfriend, a childhood friend of the suspect. The case has sparked political debate as well. The government wants to fast-track stricter public order measures targeting youth crime, including a ban on carrying knives with blades longer than 5 centimeters. And there is also a proposal to install metal detectors in schools. Current affairs checks are underway to verify whether any Italians were involved in a deadly trains disaster that occurred last night about 200 kilometers north of Malaga in Spain. Several carriages from both the trains that collided left the tracks. So far, 39 deaths have been confirmed and over 100 people are injured, but the toll could rise. Italy's foreign ministry is monitoring the situation and Italy's consul general is on site. Aereo is 51% owned by the Italian state railway company. Back to Italy, Sardinia, Sicily, Calabria are being hit by what authorities are calling a major storm system with winds reaching up to 100 kilometers an hour and waves as high as 10 meters. Alerts are already in place across these regions where many schools are closed even though the worst conditions are expected later this afternoon. Yesterday, defensive measures were set up along much of the coastline. From Taormina, Sicily, let's hear from Maurizio Di Lucchio.
Yes, Cyclone Harry has arrived, and you can see it with the naked eye here in Taormina behind me. The sea is already raging. Violent winds, heavy gusts, and sand barriers put in place to protect beaches, seaside resorts, and nearby buildings. Along the eastern side of Sicily, authorities are bracing for storm surges with waves up to 6 meters, 20 feet, and wind gusts that could reach 100 kilometers per hour, along with torrential downpours. We are on Mazzeo Beach, near Taormina, which lies under a red alert. Defensive measures are visible everywhere. Flood barriers have been installed in many businesses to protect buildings, and residents living along the seafront are on standby in case of evacuations become necessary. Several schools have been closed across eastern Sicily, including in the provinces of Catania, Messina, Agrigento, Enna, Ragusa, and Siracusa, nearly half the island. University classes have also been suspended at the University of Catania, the University of Messina, and Enna, while several railway lines are facing interruptions, suspensions, or reduced service.
Serie A action continues tonight with the rescheduled matches Cremonese-Verona and Lazio-Como. After match day 21, Inter remained firmly top of the table despite wins by Napoli and last night by AC Milan. AS Roma win away at Torino and move above Juventus, who were beaten at Cagliari. Meanwhile, Fiorentina defeat Bologna 2-1, securing precious points in their push away from the relegation zone. Aurelio Capaldi has more on the weekend's games.
This time the spotlight is on Niklas Füllkrug, the German striker who comes off the bench and scores the decisive goal against Lecce. Thanks to him, AC Milan finally break down the resistance off the side from Puglia. A winning header keeps Allegri's team 3 points behind league leaders Inter. It is Füllkrug's first goal in Italy just 2 weeks after his rival from West Ham United. AS Roma are smiling as well. Paulo Dybala and new signing Daniel Malen immediately click in their first away match together against Torino. The Argentine's assist sets up a Dutchman's debut goal just after his move from Aston Villa. The chemistry between the two is impressive, with Dybala himself ending an 84-day goal drought. For Torino, instead, home struggles are confirmed. A third straight league defeat coming after the bright Coppa Italia spell that had seen them knock out Roma. On a Sunday marked by grief following the death of Rocco Commisso and by an unpleasant lack of respect during the minute of silence, Fiorentina honored the memory of their former president with a win in Bologna. The win is built mainly in the opening stages with goals from Mandragora and Piccoli. Bologna's late response through a consolation goal by Fabian changes nothing. 3 precious points for the Viola, deeply involved in the relegation battle. This is all for today. Tune in tomorrow, same time, same channel. Catch up at www.RaiNews.it.